What's up, everybody? It's Caroline here from the Duolingo English Test with tips to help you test your best. In this video, we'll be talking about the speaking sample, what it is, what to expect, and our best tips and tricks for how to prepare for this question type. The speaking sample is a longer form open response speaking question that comes towards the end of the test. For this question, you'll see a written prompt. You'll have 30 seconds to read and consider that prompt, and then you will start to speak your response. You must speak for at least 1 minute, and you can speak for up to 3 minutes on the speaking sample. The speaking sample affects your overall DET score as well as the conversation and production subscores. Something unique to keep in mind about the speaking sample is that a video recording of your response will be shared with any universities that receive your score report. That's why it's called the speaking sample, because the universities will get to see an example of your speaking. Similarly, the writing sample is shared with universities so they can see an example of your writing. So just make sure to do your best to show off all your English skills in this question. Okay, now let's review some ways to practice for the speaking sample question. I think for a question like this, it's so important to practice your English speaking skills leading up to the test because speaking is hard. It's really hard for most people, even in your native language. Sometimes it can be hard to just talk about a topic. So a couple of ways to do that are, first of all, use our practice prompts that are in our free test readiness guide, which again, I'll link in the description box down below. And you can also search online for prompts for speaking. When I used to be a high school English teacher, I coached the speech and debate team, and there's this activity called extemporaneous speaking. And the idea is pretty much the exact same thing as the speaking sample. You're given a topic with a very limited time to prepare, and then you need to deliver a response. So if you search for that term, you'll find tons of lists online of examples that you can use. I'll link a couple that I find in the description box. And if you have any good resources for speaking prompts, leave them in the comments so others can use them. Now that you've practiced, let's talk about some tips for the actual test. When you get to the speaking sample, remember that you're going to have 30 seconds at the beginning to read and consider the prompt. I recommend taking that full 30 seconds. Don't skip ahead to start recording because it's really useful to plan out your response. So quickly in that 30-second time, think of a main point that you can make and think of some supporting points. So, for example, one of the prompts for the practice questions is, describe the geography of the country where you currently live. How does the geography of the country affect its people and its culture? So, during my planning period, I might quickly think about my response. I live in the United States, which is a really big country, and there's a lot of diverse geography here, so maybe that's my main point. And then some supporting points I could talk about are maybe different types of geography. For example, the US has a lot of coasts and rivers, and around those areas there are big cities with kind of more metropolitan trading areas. Then I could talk about how there's a lot of flat land in the middle of the country, and in that region the people have created an agricultural industry as well as their own culture. And then finally, there's tons of mountains in the US as well. So I might talk about forestry and national parks and the way that people live in those regions. So that's my plan, and now that I have it in my mind, it's easier to go for that 3-minute time limit talking about all my supporting points. For things to talk about, you can really draw on anything. Your personal experience, things you've learned in school like literature and history, current events, culture. You can talk about anything. Just like most open response questions for both speaking and writing, the content is really a jumping off point for you to show your best language skills. Make sure to speak loudly, clearly, and at an understandable pace. Use your best pronunciation of English, and remember that the DET does accept both British and American pronunciation. Just like all other speaking questions on the Duolingo English Test, you cannot re-record your response. So if you make a mistake, just keep going. If it helps, you can pretend like you're an actor doing an audition or a news anchor doing a news report. Just be confident in yourself and know that you are doing great, and just show off your best English speaking skills as much as you possibly can. And the last tip I have for you is to try to speak as much as you can, as long as it's still relevant to the prompt and you're using your best English. So rather than that 1 minute minimum, try to shoot for that 3-minute maximum time limit. Those are all the tips I have for you guys about the speaking sample. I hope this was really helpful to you. Let me know if you have other questions in the comments down below. Best of luck on the test, and I believe in you. Bye, test takers.